Hello and welcome to Todd
versus BBD.
Today we're going to be playing some Standard with some new cards from Fate Reforged.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, Hell Rider, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got a Hell Rider proxy that Brown's going to be playing with. But we're going to do two new decks today, or new-ish decks, playing with some new cards. Today I'm going to be playing with Black-White Midrange, and Brown's going to be playing
Mardu tokens.
Okay, and I know these decks are a little similar, but they do work on a lot of different levels. Like mine is a lot slower, very similar to what Brad Nelson played at SCG Minneapolis a few months ago. But let's go and take a look at the deck and the new cards and see how they'll affect it. So to start off with, we have a very light base of creatures. Seeker of the Way, Bremaz, these are the core creatures that have been in black-white shell decks for a long time. And then the new addition, Monastery Mentor. Now, I think we'll find out eventually the Monastery Mentor, very similar to Young Pyromancer, works a lot better when you have spells that draw a bunch of cards. That means usually pairing white with blue, or in the case of Young Pyromancer, it was red with blue. But I think that having a lot of ways to draw cards is how you make that good. Now, Read the Bones and possibly even Sign in Blood can go a long way in replicating that effect. But since they do damage to you, you need some way to gain life to counteract it. Or you just need to not play very much of it. And so I opted to not play very much of it. I have 2 Read the Bones main deck, 2 more in the sideboard, a few ways to gain life with the Scoured Barrens, but not a huge emphasis on that besides just having Seeker of the Way.
I mean, one really nice thing about Monastery Mentor, though, compared to Young Pyromancer, is that it triggers off of, like, Banishing Light, Sorin, Elspeth.
Yeah, we only have 11 actual creatures, so every other spell we cast is going to trigger it and make a token.
It doesn't have to just be instant sorceries.
And it is important to note that the tokens he makes do have prowess, and which is just unbelievable. Like, I can't even describe it, right?
It's like an exponentially better than Young Pyromancer.
Yeah, it does cost 1 more minute to cast, but it does have an extra point of toughness, meaning that like it's not going to get swept under the rug by like Electrickery if you end up playing it in Modern or Legacy or whatever. There's small benefits, but yeah. Moving on, the other new card we're trying out is Valorous Stance, and I talked a little bit with Brad after he did some filming the other day, and he said that he thought Valorous Stance was just going to change how white decks interact with the green-based decks, and I have to agree. You know, it doesn't kill Sidisi, which I don't like, but it does kill Courser and Siege Rhino, which is huge. Helps take care of Doomweight Giant, things like that. But on top of that, it gives you this protective cover in a split card to go along with things like Monastery Mentor, or even on like your deck, Goblin Rabble Master. And I know that you don't have Goblin Rabble Master, or you don't have Valorous Stance in your deck, do you?
No, I don't. Yeah,
but I think Brad's going to be trying that out in a Jeskai shell later in the week, so be sure to check out that, see how good Valorous Stance in his deck. Following up, we have some more creature type effects with Sorin and Elspeth to give us a little more threat density, but they also trigger Mentor, which is great. Sorin working particularly well with Monastery Mentor, since giving all of your tokens the additional boost in lifelink is awesome. We got a ton of removal with Hero's Downfall, Banishing Light, Utter End, Murderous Cut, Bile Blight, just to make sure we don't lose to a bunch of creatures. And then Forethought Season 2, Read the Bones to shore us up at the top, or the I don't know, the rest. Mana base, bunch of dual lands, 1 copy of Evolving Wilds to act as the 13th dual land of sorts, some plains and swamps, and then no fetch lands. There's no reason to run fetch lands other than to thin your deck, but I don't think that that's really all that worth it in this style of deck, since we only have Murderous Cut as our only delve card.
And Murderous Cut gets fueled anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we have enough things like Thoughtseize and whatnot, and since we're not playing more than 2, there's no need to just, dump things into our graveyard incessantly. I could easily see, and I was thinking about this before the video started, turning one of the Murderous Cuts into a Valorous Stance, depending on how good this card is in this matchup, or just in general, like once I get a better feel for it. Anyway, that is Black-White Midrange. Let's go and take a look at the sideboard, and then we'll jump to Brian's deck. All right, so here on the sideboard, we have a lot of removal and a lot of ways to get a little bit bigger. Now, this is pretty common for black and white decks because they do have access to Elspeth, which is one of the best Planeswalkers ever printed. It is format defining at times, and in this deck, I don't think it's any different. After game 1, in a lot of scenarios, you're going to want to have more copies of Read the Bones, In Hostilities, Elspeth, and sometimes even Liliana as just a bigger top end against these other mid-range decks and these other control decks. You want to make sure you have enough card advantage to grind them out. You want to make sure you have enough ways to disrupt them, and Elspeth and Liliana both go a long way in helping to do that. But against the rush decks, token decks, we have 2 Draw and Sorrow to go with the Bob Lights in the main, 4 Glare of Heresy to come in against the Abzan aggro deck, as well as helping out against Blue-White Heroic, and then 1 more copy of Valorous Stance against decks with a lot of removal if we want to try to protect our Mentor, or against green decks with Corsair and Rhino just to have an extra removal spell to take care of those. All right, guys, well, that is Black-White Midrange. Let's go and take a look at Brian's Mardu tokens.